Hello and welcome to Spy Hearts podcast, where your hosts go deep undercover into the world of spy movies to decipher which films make the knock list. But remember, this information is strictly for your ears only. I'm Agent Scott.
And I'm Kim the Provocateur. And Scott, I don't know if you know this. Come in a little closer.
Okay. Yeah? All right, sure.
The Bay of Pigs was my idea.
Whoa.
Boom. Bombshell.
Whoa. Wait, wasn't the Bay of Pigs a massive failure?
Wait, did I say it was my idea?
Pull up, Cam. Which I think also has something to do with the aerial campaign in the Bay of Pigs, but I'm not that well versed on military history.
Well, that's fair. We both failed then.
Yeah, the fail of pigs.
Yes.
Well, yeah, we're returning from our July special on The Spy Who Loved Me with a brand new film to talk about, launching our August lineup. I'll also talk about something special after this episode that's happening this week as well. But yeah, Cam, we've also got a really great guest joining us as well.
We do indeed. A big one, for sure.
Indeed. And this is a film they chose, so I think without further ado, let's get to it. It's The In-Laws. Okay, Cam, it's wedding bells are ringing in my ears. It's a celebration this week, and we couldn't celebrate by ourselves. It's not a party with just two people.
It's a pretty sad party.
I've been to many of them.
New Year's 2005, quite a year for Scott.
Very specific there. How did you know? Let's leave that there. That's 21-year-old Scott's very saddest day. But marrying his way into the Spy Hearts family this week, he is a producer and a screenwriter for shows like Family Guy, Futurama, Star Trek Enterprise, and The Orville. It's the one and only Mr. David A. Goodman. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Great to be here. Huge fan.
Hey,
thank you very much.
I'll flip that back on to you, sir. I feel like I've been following your career since I've been watching television.
Yes, I'm in the same boat.
So you're saying I'm old. That's fine.
Definitely,
that's old. A great way to.
Definitely old.
No, I don't think I'm that much younger, but I'm just very immature, incredibly immature.
I concur with this.
That's something we all have in common.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, we sort of first spoke to you last year back at the Star Trek Las Vegas convention. We had a good chinwag, I think, behind the scenes, and it was lovely just to catch up with you there. And it turned out you were a big spy movie fan, so we knew we had to get you on.
Huge spy movie fan. I mean, I think that most Jewish boys from the suburbs are big spy movie fans. So I fit into that category. I mean, I saw. My gateway drug was Live and Let Die, the first James Bond movie I saw, and I saw it in the theater, and just a mind-blowing moment as a kid to see that kind of movie. I'd never really seen any of them on television. I'd never. I was brought up in a house full of women. My raised by a single mom and had two older sisters, so spy movies and action kind of things was never on the TV menu. But going to see that movie and being hooked on James Bond, again, gateway drug in the sense that, like, I really then became a fan of the James Bond books, and then started reading John le Carre and other spy, and Len Dayton and all those other, and then obviously all the other spy movies that have been made. But it really started with James Bond.
Well, I actually have a question. I've never asked anyone who, their first movie was like Live and Let Die. We've had a few people in the past who had a similar story as yours.
Yeah.
We talk so much when we are covering, say, the Daniel Craig films, and it's like,
right.
Oh, we've hit Spectre. This was a real, fall into the pits for that series. What was it like tracking the Roger Moore films over the course of that time period? Because it definitely has, its ups and downs.
Yeah, well, the thing about, Roger Moore, he was my James Bond. I mean, yeah. I obviously then eventually grew to love Sean Connery, but I didn't discover him until after I'd seen really a couple of the Roger Moore movies. Obviously, this is before the advent of video and being able to watch on whenever you wanted. It was an interesting. The thing about the Roger Moore movies, more really than any of, I feel like more than any of the other Bonds, is that they were really always about the time that they were made. So Live and Let Die was during the period of the trend of blaxploitation movies, and it's a blaxploitation movie. Man with a Golden Gun, Kung Fu. Kung Fu was big, Moonraker, Star Wars, that influenced that. And so there's a way in which those movies, as much as I love them, they don't really stand on their own as James Bond movies because they're also so influenced by the corporate movie culture in which they were made. And so for me, but I was a kid, so I went along for the ride, and this is a big movie, and I mean, I really was 11 or 12 when Live and Let Die came out, and so I was really watching them as I was growing up into high school, and I really wasn't judging them harshly as James Bond. It's only looking back do I say, all right, these aren't quite as good as the Connery films or even some of the Daniel Craig films. I mean, they're just not as good Bond movies in a certain way. And I am not. I mean, this is a hot take. I'm not a fan of Spy Who Loved Me. I don't think that's a good movie at all.
Whoa.
Whoa. That was David Goodman, everyone. He's just joined us. He's just left.
Not you guys. Yes. No. But I've tried to rewatch it. I find it really annoying. I don't know why. I don't think it's good. Sorry.
So if that's not the pinnacle of Roger Moore for you, what is?
Well, that's a good question. I think Few Eyes Only, because
Okay.
Moore he's not a great actor, but he has a lot of charm, and by that the grounding of that movie, the story is much more grounded than the other Bond movies. So for me, that showing like, oh, look at this, you care about James Bond, you care about him in a different way in that movie. And the way he treats the women in the movie, it's a little more elevated than others, and the story is so small. It's the Lecter. It harkens back to From Russia with Love. It's a very wait, is the Lecter is From Russia with Love, right?
That's
so,
right. Yeah,
but it's a very similar kind of thing of the code pad thing,
The ATAC.
Right, and. So to me, from a movie-going point of view, that was the one where I was like, I think Live and Let Die, except for its, what now looking back about it, it's very potentially very racist and offensive. That hurts that movie and that's too bad because the plot and the villain of that movie, I think, are among the best of the Bond films.
Mm-hmm. And a great collection of henchman characters as well in that film.
Yes, yeah, but Yaphet Kotto, it's to me in terms of Bond villains, it's Blofeld and it's Yaphet Kotto. I mean, he Kananga, he's amazing in the role. He has you understand his betrayal, Solitaire's betrayal of him, like that. He's a great villain, but the movie's hurt because. It was because of the time it was made.
Well, I think when we tackled it, we sort of deftly tiptoed around some of the bigger issues with that. But we were also very fortunate to have that Yaphet Kotto interview by our mutual friend Mark Altman.
Oh,
who we all know and love.
Yeah,
and put that out. But I suppose and with your intro, and I was talking about some of the shows you've worked on. I feel like I did you a disservice. I could spend a little while listing your credits.
Okay.
But you've been writing TV. Okay, well, let's do it.
Let's go.
Starting with the Golden Girls, and then we'll work from there.
No.
Okay. Well, no, but you've been working in TV for quite some time. Different types from sci-fi, comedy, all kinds of things. You're talking about this love of spy movies, James Bond being sort of your gateway drug and building into the wider spy world, novels and films. How has that influenced your screenwriting? Like, how has that fed in?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've never really worked in that side of the business, even in television. I mean, there have been great spy shows on television. the one that pops in my head is Alias. I think it's a great spy show. There are others. Killing Eve, amazing. Slow Horses. I mean, amazing shows. I think in those circumstances, I'm just a viewer. I when they're done well, I can't even pick apart how they were made. I mean, part of the problem I think when you work in the business, especially as a writer, I feel like if things are not done well, you're immediately taken out of it because you're sort of seeing the work on the screen. And in terms of very well done things in the spy genre, I get to just be an audience member. So I think that there have been jokes and things that I've thrown in on shows that are very that are probably very spy oriented and or referencing Bond films or these certainly on Family Guy we've done lots of James Bond kind of jokes and parodies and gags and I've probably pitched a lot of those, but I don't remember. But it's more of me as an interest as a fan that somehow makes it into my work.
Well, it was just interesting because, like, if you chart sort of the synergy of things that you love with your work,
Right.
because you look at Where No Fan Has Gone Before, that's your love of Star Trek coming through the prism of Futurama. I just wondered if there was ever a time you maybe tried to get a spy story in there or something like that.
Well, actually, there was a minute where I actually was the showrunner of American Dad. There was the showrunner had to leave, and they needed somebody to fill in temporarily while they found somebody permanent. And Seth asked me to do it. And there are a couple of episodes in there that I take a great pride in that I was like really concerned about. There's one in particular where Stan becomes a leftist. He gets hypnotized and becomes a lefty, and I really wanted that kind of Manchurian Candidate feel to it, but in a comic way. And so I get really concerned in those moments of like, no, I want this to feel like a real spy thing, and that maybe sometimes can get in the way of the comedy. But there's it's funny. I don't actually think I've written some books. I've written some Star Trek books. And I know some of your fans don't want me to talk about Star Trek, but and
go ahead.
There are sequences in all three of my Star Trek books that lean into the spy stuff because Star Trek had a lot of spy stories, and I fleshed out some of them in the three books that I wrote, and really enjoyed that piece of it. And that was probably the closest that I've come to it.
Well, I want to come back to one of the shows you've worked on in the past, maybe at the end of the episode, because I have a big question that's burning inside me. But I'm going to put a pin in it because I'm going to take us over to the film. And it's interesting because when we talk to people that we want to get on the show, we often say like, "Hey, is there a film you want to talk about?" And I'll be like, it could be a really obscure one if you want, but what's a film you're really passionate about? And a lot of the times they'll reply with something like, have you heard of Casino Royale? I'll be like, yeah, I think I have. But then you actually gave us a film, and it wasn't one we planned to tackle, and I thought this is a really interesting thing to do. So, Cam, why don't you talk us in? What are we talking about this week?
Yes, we are tackling 1979's The In-Laws, starring Peter Falk and Alan Arkin.
We certainly are. And if you haven't seen The In-Laws and you've already clicked play on this episode, hello and welcome. But I'll read you the synopsis and then we'll have a little discussion about like how we stumbled upon this film. But here it is, The In-Laws, the first certified crazy person's comedy. What a tagline. In preparation for his daughter's wedding, dentist Sheldon Cornpet meets Vince Ricardo, the groom's father. Vince, a manic fellow who claims to be a government agent, then proceeds to drag Sheldon into a series of chases and misadventures from New York to Central America.
Boom.
I kind of want a manic fellow on my gravestone.
Oh, that's a pretty good one, actually. Pretty good.
Oh, Scott, he was a manic fellow.
Not as good as the Leslie Nielsen one on his gravestone, but which is
what was his?
Let Her Rip.
Yeah. He did like that fart machine, didn't he?
He did.
Yep.
He did.
Well, I think that begs the first question. We'll save the review part for a little while. But David, what sort of inspired you to suggest this film, and what was your sort of early experience with it?
Well, this is one of my favorite comedies, and it may be my favorite comedy, and a big part of the reason is the spy element. But I saw the movie in the theater when it came out. I was in high school, and I thought it was so funny, but I also loved the plot. Like the bad guy has a plot and has a plan, and it actually it's pretty good. It's a pretty good bad guy plan, and yet there was so much in it that probably connected to me directly, that where it takes place, New York, and then sort of the suburbs of New York, where the main character, Alan Arkin's dentist family lives. That's where I grew up. I grew up outside New York City. New York City was a big part of my growing up, going into the city, whatever. But there was also there's a Jewish element to a lot of the dialogue in the movie, which was just so familiar to me again, and I connected to it, but also really funny. And there is something about Peter Falk that I cannot get enough of. I'm a huge Columbo fan, but he's been in so much stuff, and I will watch things just to see Peter Falk. And I think all those things combined, but to me, the spy story probably was the most important piece of it to me when I saw it. That it was funny, but that also I was kind of into this whole like spy thing again, probably from my years of being a James Bond fan. By the time I saw it, I was really into it. I thought, I love this balance that the movie did of its comedy, but there's this jeopardy, and the jeopardy is real, and yet somehow they're mixing both. And there's just something about that really appealed to me. That's probably, in a nutshell, the most important thing.
I actually have a question to follow up on that, because you're someone who's written a lot of comedy over the course of your career, a lot. And there are a lot of comedy spy films out there. And the vast majority of them are not very good.
Right.
What is it about the spy comedy, do you think, that makes it such a tough nut to crack?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One is like, what's the type of spy comedy you're doing? So, for instance, I think most of the spy comedies are doing riffs on James Bond, and with the exception of Austin Powers, which I think did it amazingly. Those are really funny movies because they're so out there, audacious. Most of, I think, the problem that you run into with James Bond is that as soon as you start playing with the comedy, the jeopardy goes away, and then you're just doing gag to gag to gag. And unless you're an incredible gag writer or director, it's gonna get tired. You lose the story. Like what's the story? And I think that's a big problem with the spy genre comedy in general, is that how do you walk the line, which this movie does beautifully, of jeopardy and laughs, and it's a really tough line to walk. I think one of the reasons this movie, I think, really succeeds and is really a classic is that it also comes out of a period of the 1970s where we as a country and as a world were losing faith in our institutions. And so the idea of somebody working for the CIA didn't automatically make them a good guy. And that's something we accept now, but it was new in the 70s. That that sort of the CIA was revealed to have been involved in some really sketchy stuff, but we didn't really learn about that stuff till the late 60s, early 70s. I mean, even just the theories around CIA being involved in the assassination of a president. That was still new then, and this movie, I think, takes advantage of that audience's cynicism, because you really do start to think Peter Falk, whose character works as a CIA agent, you don't automatically think he's a hero. And that's the other piece too, that the James Bond paradigm as a model for a comedy is filled with mines that are very easy to detonate.
There's also the self-parody aspect. It's like Bond has
Right.
pushed the envelope
Yes.
so far. Like once you're going to space, how do you really parody Bond?
Exactly. Well, Bond always, except I mean, in the Craig era, Bond's always had humor in those movies. There's always been jokes. There's always been, and that's the that you're right. It's edging into parody anyway, and it's hard to have like a serious, a serious character. It's funny again. Like we can talk about the movie in a minute, but I mean, that's the issue too with like the Bond character. Is he going to be like a Leslie Nielsen fuck up character, or is he going to be sort of a clueless guy who just sort of stumbles, a guy everything goes right for? Like it's so you have a lot of like things that can really get in the way of a good movie.
It's also just nice to hear from a bona fide screenwriter to intellectualize a little bit of what me and Cam have experienced over the last 5 years of doing the show, which is a lot of spy comedies that will start off quite strong, usually, then just be filled with jokes, and in the last 15 minutes go, oh, we have a plot
Right.
here, we better get back to that,
Yeah.
and then they just rush for a plot to get to the end, and it's not funny.
Right.
And it just ends up just sort of not delivering on an ending.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's like, and that can be a function of a lot of things. It can be a function of, a function of how movies get made and how specific movies get made, and spy movies are often set piece to set piece, and you really do need good writers and directors who are making sure that it's not just set piece to set piece. And in comedy, it's that much harder to find those people who aren't just concerned with the funny, but they're also concerned with the character's arc, where they are at the beginning, where they are at the end, and making a movie that transcends the jokes.
Well, Cam, why don't you take us on a journey? How did this matrimony come to be?
Okay, so this happened at least in the initial days because Alan Arkin was getting really frustrated with the scripts he was being given. And incredibly talented guy, great career, but was just not happy. And so he started pitching ideas to the studios of people he could work with that would be entertaining. And he was a big fan of Peter Falk and said, what about me and Peter Falk together? And that's actually how he got his first exec producer credit in his career on this film, was going to Warner Brothers and saying, let's put us together and see what happens. And so they were like, hey, that sounds pretty good. And so they recruited Andrew Bergman, who was a New York-born writer, whose first credit was co-writing Blazing Saddles with Mel Brooks. Not too bad.
Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad.
No.
I also just love the ease of which he got this film rolling. Like the idea of someone just walking into a studio and being like, hey, let's do a film with that guy. Okay, yeah, here's some money.
Very different time.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
What about me and this person?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Right.
And so this was actually Andrew Bergman's follow-up to Blazing Saddles. So he rolled right from that into this. This was his first solo credit. And he'd go on to have a pretty great career. He wrote Fletch in 1986 with Chevy Chase, wrote and directed The Freshman, 1992's Honeymoon in Vegas with Nick Cage. He directed the Nick Cage movie It Could Happen to You in 94. And he also wrote and directed Striptease with Demi Moore, that he's talked a lot about. Was a movie that was hugely hyped, a massive 1996 summer movie, and did not perform very well. But he said, actually, in terms of his films, it was actually one of his most successful ever. But just in terms of expectations versus dollars earned, yeah.
There's a connection too of The Freshman, which he wrote and directed, starring Brando. One of the ways he connected with Brando was The In-Laws was one of Brando's favorite movies.
Yeah, and I think he said like Brando would quote lines from the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume
Yeah,
he just walked around just shouting "Serpentine, Serpentine."
And so, Andrew Bergman said that when it came to this movie, he basically broke it down. He said, Warner Brothers said to me, Alan Arkin and Peter Falk want to do a movie together. And I thought immediately, didn't they do a movie? It's like they seem so perfect for each other. Their personalities, you have a rabbit and a tortoise. You get a hysteric, a person who seems to have no feelings whatsoever, and I hate constructing plots. Hate it more than anything. But I love constructing characters, and this was the perfect thing where the characters were the plot.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, so
From a screenwriter's perspective, is it that easy sometimes?
No, it's almost never that easy. No, I think that well, what's interesting too, and I encourage anybody who is a fan of this movie to get a hold of the Criterion Collection DVD, because there's a commentary with the writer, the director, and Falk and Arkin.
Oh wow!
And Bergman talks about like he never has so much fun writing a movie that writing this one, knowing who he was writing it for. And again, like those two actors, I mean, there was a perfect fit of the writer, the director, and those actors. But it's so, again, Bergman also says on that commentary, he didn't plot it out. That's what's so amazing to me about this movie is that it has such a good plot, and yet he just wrote from scene to scene and sort of pulled it all together at the end. And he clearly had specific ideas of what he wanted because he sets things up so beautifully. But I think it's more of like this is a real moment. There are great movies that didn't exist before, will never exist again because it was those four people at the center of it creating this thing. And they were at this, as you say, a powerful moment for Arkin to get to make a movie he wanted to make, and he wanted to work with Peter Falk. I mean, all those things come together, and we're just fortunate it happened.
It's kind of funny as well. Like we're sitting in the shadow of Superman and coming out. And I know at this point of recording it has just come out, whereas by its release it's out and it might be the biggest film ever, or it may have just disappeared. Who knows? But James Gunn was doing the rounds and talking about how a lot of these films these days are sort of being finished without finished scripts, and he doesn't want that in his DC universe or whatever he's calling it. And it's interesting to know that was still happening back in the 70s. Like people were just sort of finding their way through productions.
Yeah. But that wasn't this script. I mean, this script was written before they started shooting it.
Oh, good.
But Bergman talks about how he was writing it, that he was just writing scene to scene. Just what am I going to do with these guys next?
Without knowing the ending.
Without and that he got to this ending. And it's a real artistic story. Like he had this thing inside him and he put it in a script, and it is a piece of art. I mean, I think it's brilliant. I love it. So.
Well, assigned to bring this to the screen was director Arthur Hiller, who was a Canadian director. It started out as a producer on the 1953 Canadian sci-fi adventure series Space Command. He did 149 episodes of that. Has anyone ever heard of this?
I have, yeah.
No.
Have you seen like clips or anything?
I don't know that any exists.
Okay.
This isn't. I'm not 100% sure of this, but James Doohan, who played Scotty on Star Trek, was in a 50s show.
That rings a bell.
And it might have been Space Command.
That does ring a bell. Yeah, a Canadian actor as well.
Yeah, I think it was. Or in any event, I'm not sure anything. I think it was like a live TV show, and it was in that period where, but I'm not sure there are any recordings of it. I've never seen it.
Right. Okay. So yeah, Hiller then started directing television himself, did shows like Playbill and Matinee Theater, before helming the 1957 tumultuous teen romance, The Careless Years. And then he went back to TV for quite a while, and did some fill-in directing on the 1966 epic Hawaii, and then had a big hit with the 1970 comedy The Out-of-Towners, starring Jack Lemmon and Sandy Dennis. that basically led into him directing Love Story, which was a massive film that same year, and he got a Best Director nomination. That film was up for Best Picture as well. And this movie was his follow-up to the Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder film, Silver Streak.
Well, firstly, I'll jump in with, I'm surprised you didn't mention his work on the 1950s TV show of The Third Man.
That's right, yeah.
And I can also confirm Space Command was a very long-running show, and Jimmy Doohan did almost every single episode.
Oh, wow.
And it also, at one point, starred the one-time Felix Leiter. We got told off for the pronunciation of this, but I kept saying Keck Linder. I can't remember what... Is it Keck or Cease?
It's Keckland. No, it's Cease. Cease Linder.
John Cork is listening to this screaming right now. I'm sorry, John Cork. Cease Linder, one time from Goldfinger, for those who don't remember his time as Felix.
That's right. And previous guest on the show, Brian Bragg, actually talked about Silver Streak and was desperate to know the connection between Richard Kiel having metal teeth in Silver Streak and then popping up the next year in Spy Who Loved Me. So
yeah, that was a weird coincidence. I remember that. No.
I'm also just realizing I'm completing like a Star Trek writers' room through our guests over the years now. We've had Brannon, we've had David. Who's next? Ira? I'll get Ira in. I'll find Ira somewhere.
We weren't in a room together, but
we'll make a new room. It's fine.
But I was going to ask David, were you a fan of The Out-of-Towners?
Yes, I saw it when it came out. My dad took me to see that, and it has a New York quality that's in a lot of ways similar to The In-Laws in terms of what happens with the Jack Lemmon character. What happens to him is very similar to what happens in terms of how he's reacting to New York City, to what happens with Alan Arkin in The In-Laws. But yeah, no, The Out-of-Towners is a fantastic movie.
It really feels like, just look at his filmography, Arthur Hiller kind of had his place in time.
Yeah.
And then struggled later on, because when you look at how his career ended, he did The Babe, the Babe Ruth film with John Goodman. He did Carpool with Tom Arnold. It's not a place you want to be. And the film, an Alan Smithy film, Burn Hollywood Burn, which was so notorious.
Oh, I didn't realize that he did the Alan Smithy film.
He took his name off of it, so it was actually credited by Alan Smithy.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I just saw Tom Arnold's just done a remake of Airplane called Airplane 2025. And
oh, really?
I'm not sure he should have.
Wow.
Oh.
Is that? Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's like the business changes and what the type of movies you were making, which is again like great. They made great movies. Weren't the kind of movies that Hollywood was making anymore. There's a way in which both The Out-of-Towners and In-Laws, if I think about those movies, they're really they're smallish movies. I mean, they're contained in a way, and Hollywood really stopped making, the studios stopped making those kinds of movies, I think.
Also more reserved in their comedy
Yes.
than what would come later.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So this movie had a budget of $9 million, and domestically it did $38.2 million. So it was definitely successful.
That's a
the
hit.
worldwide numbers, do not know. It was regarded as a sleeper somewhat at the time, but became incredibly popular on TV and video, like really exploded there. And for the year, it was number 19 between Starting Over, the Burt Reynolds comedy drama, and All That Jazz with Roy Scheider, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
That's a successful movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But that is a movie. That is also a movie that, like, this movie also, like, there's things that went into the culture from this movie. I mean, that's the other thing too, that you could have a movie, and as you mentioned, Scott, Serpentine, like, people of a certain age know exactly what that means.
It's also interesting that like this and All That Jazz are both on the Criterion Collection.
Right?
Well, I wonder what the top three films that year and if they were all on the Criterion Collection.
Well, the top three for the year, number 1 was Moonraker, number 2 was Rocky 2, and number 3 was Alien.
I think Alien is.
No, it's not, but it deserves to be. I just don't think Fox is going to give up or Disney is going to hand that one over
Probably not
to them.
Probably not.
And a couple of final notes I had. Andrew Bergman reunited with Peter Falk and Alan Arkin for the 1985 dark comedy Big Trouble, which was co-directed by John Cassavetes. I'm curious, David, have you seen this film?
I've not seen Big Trouble.
Okay, it was a bit of a flop, and Bergman said he just never even figured it out.
Don't tarnish the legacy of the In-Laws.
I remember when it came out, and again, I was so in love with the In-Laws, and I so wanted that to be good, and then I read reviews that said it wasn't, and I think I just avoided it because, again, I was still basking in the glow 5 years later of the In-Laws.
I think it was a bit of a Fierce Creatures situation.
Yeah.
And also of note, this film was remade in 2003 with Michael Douglas and Albert Brooks. Was not particularly successful. And David, how was it?
I never saw it. For the same reason. I don't know that same reason. There's another interesting thing too that's connected. I'm a huge fan of the original Murder on the Orient Express with Albert Finney. I can do the whole cast for you if you want, but because I memorized the commercial from when I was a kid. I love that movie, and then Kenneth Branagh remade it, and I'm actually a fan of the Kenneth Branagh Poirot movies, but I can't see Murder on the Orient Express. I just can't see it. It's like this, the original has too much power in my life that I don't want to see the remake. I wish them luck, but
you can't tease that now and say you could name the whole cast and then not do it.
I'll do it. I was teasing it, so hoping that you would say it. So there was a commercial. I watched a lot of television as a kid. This was the commercial for Murder on the Orient Express. Albert Finney, Lauren Bacall, Martin Balsam, Ingrid Bergman, Jacqueline Bisset, Jean-Pierre Casal, Sean Connery, John Gielgud, Wendy Hiller, Anthony Perkins, Vanessa Redgrave, Rachel Roberts, Richard Widmark, Michael York. The who's who in the Who Done It. And then there's a line from the movie, "Do not touch nothing." Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express, rated GP. That was before it was PG, I think.
Wow.
Quiet clap. Brilliant. Amazing stuff. That's dedication to television. That's what that is.
That's too much, not enough friends and too much television. So.
Too much daytime TV, bunking off school,
exactly.
catching trailers for films. Yeah. I've been there. Don't worry. I feel you. And we've had one of those on the show, so I can go happy after this.
Who'd you have?
Jacqueline Bisset.
Wow.
And we did ask about that film, actually. We did didn't we get the Sean Connery sock story out of that one?
I believe that was the case, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to go listen to that episode.
That's your homework. There you go.
It is.
Homework, everyone. Well, okay. The band are playing. We've got to walk up the aisle now. Let's talk about the In-Laws. And David, this is your film. You've brought it to the show. Why don't you present it to the world? What do you think of the In-Laws, and how does it hold up in 2025 for you?
I watched it again last night. I hadn't watched it in a few years now. Last time I watched it, actually, I watched it with my kids, but I think could be easily 10, 12 years ago. So it's been a while since I've watched it. And I found myself laughing at things. And I think, even though I know the movie very well, jokes still made me laugh. The performances still made me laugh. I think it completely holds up because it's a bit of a time capsule. It takes place in the 70s in New York, and then a little bit in a island nation in the Caribbean, although it actually shot in Mexico. But it's the story of this dentist and his family. And his daughter's getting married, and he meets his in-laws. And the in-law, played by Peter Falk, is a weird guy. He seems a little crazy, and they go on this adventure. In a certain way, I don't really want to spoil the movie. I'm hoping people who haven't heard of it actually watch the movie. But there is a strong spy element. It turns out that Peter Falk's character works for the CIA, or says he works for the CIA, and that's sort of a question in the movie. And you're really with the Alan Arkin character, who's this dentist who's being dragged into jeopardy by his new in-law, and the movie just does this amazing job of taking us on this journey, having us buy some really crazy stuff. Like that's the other thing that I find so impressive about the movie is how grounded it is, that you can believe this is happening. It never feels like a spoof. There are farcical elements, but it never feels like a farce to me. You're on the journey with Alan Arkin. You're reacting with him, and you're laughing. Some great comic performances throughout the film, and the reality of the situation. It feels it feels very grounded. It's a grounded spy story within this domestic comedy. Have I said enough? Should I keep going? What do you want? What do you want me to
No,
say?
I know.
Hey, you say what you want. It's your time.
We will say though, it is safe to spoil the movie.
Okay.
Everyone
sure.
should have watched the movie for this episode. If they haven't, pause the movie or pause the episode, I should say,
Right.
and play the movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the stealing, the spy piece of it involves Peter Falk arranging for the robbery of the engravings that are used to make American money, and the metal engravings, and he sort of is telling this story to Alan Arkin about, like, revealing to him like that this story of the U.S. Mint being robbed, which happens at the beginning of the movie, that he did this, and that now Alan Arkin is involved in this robbery, and that the purpose of this robbery is to expose South American dictators' plot to ruin the world economy, and by printing counterfeit money, not just American money, but from many different countries. And that's not a bad spy plot. As that
No.
unfolds, that's not bad. That's good. And that's one of the things I love about the movie, is that you're with the story. You want them to succeed in whatever it is that they're going to do, because it's like, oh, that really would be bad. That there's some jeopardy there.
Well, I was thinking of Quantum of Solace, which aimed for a more stripped down, believable spy plot with the Bolivian water stuff.
Uh-huh.
That just felt like it was so flat. And in this movie, I was like, this actually makes logical sense, but is also compelling enough to keep you wondering, like, what's going on over the course of the episode or the film.
Right. And then the movie itself is, the other grounded piece of it is that Peter Falk's character is on the edge of being unbelievable. Like, he's just on the edge of it. There's some stuff that he says that what I would call are expensive jokes. And an expensive joke, to me, the term refers to a joke that may get you a big laugh, but kind of may also undermine your story a little bit. So it's one of the classic set pieces of the movie is he's telling the story of being in the bush and giant tsetse flies carrying children off, and that they're protected by the Guacamole Act of 1917. And all these are what I would call expensive jokes, in that all the people around that table should be saying, wait, what? But it's only Alan Arkin who's saying it. Everybody else is just sort of buying it. And that to me is like, well, this is... Yet these are also, I just listed probably among the most memorable jokes in the movie. So maybe they weren't that expensive, but I think that's like Peter Falk's character. Some of the stuff he does and some of the pieces in the movie are just on the edge of being unbelievable. And yet, because he's so charming, because he's such a wonderful actor, I mean, Falk is just one of a kind. There's nobody like him doing anything before or since, and that you're so charmed by him, you so want to believe him. But the other half of that is Alan Arkin's responses to him, reactions to him. They're so grounded. So he is not a scene. He's scene steals by doing almost nothing and reacting in the most realistic way possible to what's happening to him, which gets increasingly crazy.
I mean, yeah, I can't agree with that more. There was so many scenes of Alan Arkin's reactions where I felt like this is the most relatable character I've ever seen in a spy comedy
Right.
or spy film, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Go wide on that, because it was the look in the eyes and the way that you could genuinely like register him thinking and
Right.
what he was thinking
Yeah.
in a given scene, which is something that's so hard to get across. How many times do you sit and watch a movie and there's an actor with like a blank stare on their face and you go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But with Alan Arkin, you could always see him working through everything that was happening. And that moment at the table that you referenced with the flies carrying off the children's story, everything on his face I could relate with. I think we all have those moments in life where something bizarre happens,
Right.
someone says something strange, and you're scanning the room to be like, did anyone else just hear that? And
Right.
everyone is just staring at the person telling the story without registering anything.
Yeah.
And I was like watching that going, the way they played that was so natural and subtle, and a different movie would play it big.
Right.
You'd have Alan Arkin being like, what?
Right.
And they didn't do that. And I think like that is very representative of the comedy of that time period, it feels like, because go a few years later into the 80s, there's no way you'd have that scene play the same way or be that brief.
You're right. You're right. None of the other actors are playing it. Everyone's playing it dead on straight. They're in a drama, and they're just playing it straight. And Nancy Dussault, who is Alan Arkin's wife, her reactions to was there anything you could do for, what did you do about the flies stealing the babies? And she says it. She's so grounded in when she says that. She's so, well, what did you do? What did you, like, it's real. Like, it's like, and it makes it that much funnier that there are these sort of real people in the thing. I'm curious, did you guys like the movie?
Scott, do you want to go first or me?
Am I jumping the gun here?
No. I think
No.
I was gonna pass it over to Cam actually, and I will do that in a second. The one thing I will say about that dinner table scene,
Yeah.
I was actually kind of like on board with his story. Maybe it just shows how gullible I am. It was when the word beaks came up on the insects,
Right.
and I was like, okay, yeah, this is too
Beaks.
far now. I don't know.
You hung on that long?
I've never been in the bush. I don't know. They could be big bugs.
Carrying away children?
They could be. Who knows? I've never been there.
It's not Jurassic World Dominion.
But what's so great about it too is Alan Arkin has your response. He says, "Beaks, flies with beaks." Like, it's like an amazing. That's also an amazing. All his line readings are just amazing. Like the yeah. But anyway, go ahead, Scott.
No, but it's quite. This is the reason why you championed this film, brought it on. You love it, so that's good to know that you still love it in 2025. So
Yeah.
I want to hear from Cam next on this one. What did you think of it?
I really enjoyed this movie a lot, and I'd never seen it before, so this was a first-time watch for me. I had heard of it, I think, mostly because of the remake, which I didn't see, but it was more just awareness that when it came out, they would talk about, oh, it's a remake of this film from the 1970s. And for whatever reason, this had just passed me by. I don't know why, but I was legitimately won over by it very quickly, and it was that very like grounded performance of Alan Arkin and being able to like register the comedy and everything that was going on throughout the course of the movie in a way that didn't feel like mugging, but was somehow funnier than if he was like mugging.
Right.
And there's a lot of movies where you'd have that character going big or going broad, and it might work in a different movie or a different tone. But I was laughing more here than I do in any of the movies I can think of that go for something bigger and broader. And I also love that Peter Falk's character is incredibly positive. Like, he's this low-key positive person throughout the entire thing. He's like, oh, you're doing great. What a guy. What a guy. It's like, that's kind of his, like, Teflon coating.
Yeah.
Is that he's the CIA guy who's up to dirty dealings, but he's so positive and just casually pleasant to be around that everyone just kind of gives him a pass and lets him skate by. And I thought, like, this movie is incredibly smart in terms of how it's drawing this sort of representation of a CIA spy.
Yeah.
And the fact he says, oh, most of them are like me, small, compact. And the fact that you would believe this guy is just a, casual father of a, 20-something-year-old son, not particularly special, and yet at the same time is consistently calm under pressure in a way that is very funny at the firing squad scene at the end, but also just like, I think he would be quite effective. And so in terms of like giving me a spy story that I could be involved in, it worked, but it was the layer of comedy that sometimes I find when I go back to 1970s comedies, some of them can be a little bit tough for me.
Yeah.
Where I go, okay, well, I can appreciate that the premise was very clever,
Right.
and I laughed once in the film. But boy, that premise and those actors, that wasn't the case here. I legitimately was laughing a lot. So
all right,
thumbs up for on my end. Yeah.
I guess it comes down to me then. That all eyes are on me as per. And David, it's been great getting to know you the last year, and I hope our friendship lives on after this.
That's fine. You didn't like it at all, did you?
Yeah. Do I much like Cam just said, I love the premise.
Oh no.
This is how I came down on it. Okay, so I watched it today, and I was, I didn't. It wasn't a film I didn't laugh at. There were moments I certainly laughed at. There were sort of big moments I'll look back on and remember, like Serpentine and sort of the shootout and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it was hitting my funny bone the way it's supposed to have for the rest of the film to work. And so I was stuck with a lot of the time just dealing with the plot, which is good and is an interesting and an abnormal plot from the sort of stuff we usually deal with on this show. So I was enjoying that, and I think the performances were really good. But I don't think I laughed as many times as I perhaps should have to really get on board with the film. That's real, and I think like a comedy spy film generally lives or dies on its comedy.
Right.
And if it doesn't quite work for me in that sense, then I walked out of it colder than perhaps the both of you.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, again, comedy is a very specific thing too. Like there are very few comedies that work for everybody. Like that's the other piece of it. One, two. It's interesting. We're calling it a comedy spy film. It's not. It's a domestic comedy with a spy element.
Sure.
Like, and that's the other piece of it. Like watching it again, I was kind of like struck by. My memory of it is that there was more of the spy stuff in it than there actually is. Like watching again, it's like this is really about these two guys talking, these two guys being together. That's it's an odd couple kind of comedy. It's just that one of these characters is a spy, and that to me probably shifts the definition of the film. Having said that, still love it and made me laugh, and I love the spy piece of it. So,
well, I thought we were in real trouble in the first sort of 10 minutes or so, because it starts off with a heist where Falk's character is taking these printing presses, the
engravings.
I forget the name, engraving plates. Thank you. And then you go to sort of the happy domestic life of a dentist and stuff. And it's nothing really to do with the CIA until about like the 25-minute mark, where that starts to come up, and you're like, oh, thank heavens! Like there is actually a spy plot here. I thought we'd been led down a garden path.
You were worried that I
that was the ultimate infiltration. You've got onto the show without a spy movie.
Without a spy movie, yeah.
But no, it did all fall in the end.
I'll be honest. Rewatching it yesterday, I'm like, oh, these spy guys are not going to be happy. There's a lot, because I had the same thing of like, boy, we're with the family a lot. Yeah.
I don't know. Like I really thought maybe because we've tackled so many spy films at this point, a lot of spy films don't fall in a box marked spy film.
Right.
Obviously, something like Jason Bourne films do, or something like that, or James Bond, but or some of the Le Carre films, but like. There's a lot of movies that are classified as spy films that are really like 1 foot in the spy film, 1 foot in another genre entirely.
Well, most movies are that too. There are very few movies that are just one genre too. But yeah.
So I really didn't blink during this one in terms of it being a spy film. I really did not question it for much at all.
I think what the other piece of it that I loved watching it again, and I knew this already, but I was reminded of it, is Peter Falk's character is really competent.
Yes.
He's a really competent spy. He's a good shot. He's clever. That car chase scene is, to me, again, just an amazing mix of like an action scene, but also the comedy, and that, he's driving backwards and it's him at the wheel. I don't know if you know how they shot that. There's a guy in the trunk driving the car, looking out through two eye holes. But there are those pieces of it, like he's an enormously competent, as goofy as the character is, he's really good at his job. And I really appreciate that piece of it too.
The only part I questioned that though was when Alan Arkin went back to get the keys,
Yeah.
and was coming back, and then he yelled Serpentine, and Alan Arkin then ran back towards the keys again, or towards the dead guy, and had to come back. I'm
He was
like,
just panicking. He's just panicking. It's fine.
But he was pretty much there. I don't know that he needed to have that yelled at him. When
Yeah,
he was
that was. Well, again,
That's
it's
the only
like
moment.
it's this thing in this movie. There are these jokes that are just like that's just a joke at this point, and like you're sort of because the plot is kind of really well laid out in terms of the spy thing. When those things show up, you're like, all right, come on. But again, the general audience, that's what they remember. Serpentine is the thing everybody remembers from this movie.
I had a question for you, David. You said you watched it with your kids. What
Mhm.
was their take on it?
They loved it.
They did. Okay.
They were, I mean, I don't remember when we watched it. They're grown now. They're in their late 20s, both of them. But at the time, I don't know, they were probably 10 or 12 is my guess. And they, they just laughed. They thought it was funny. Again, there's probably there are cultural pieces to it too. Nobody says they're Jewish, but they're clearly the dentist family's a Jewish. I don't know. That's the other. So.
Well, I think like we'll drift over to like likes because there is a lot to celebrate about this film, and I think one of the things that jumped out to me, I do want to talk about the double act of well, yeah, Falk and Alder. I think they're
Arkin
anyway, and Arkin.
No.
Arkin, sorry, not Alder. I was there. Don't worry. Don't write in, folks. Jesus, good lord. But I actually just one thing that really jumped out to me by the end of the film is I really appreciated the fact that Alan Arkin's character is never made out to be a good spy. One thing we see time and time again in spy films,
Right.
it drives me up the wall, is you get a lot of like wrong man in wrong place or people that are like drafted in, and by the end of the story, they happen to be masterful spies.
Right.
Whereas he is bumbling his way through the entire film, and you absolutely believe it because you can put yourself in the position of him. You would be that useless. And I probably would run back into the fire when someone's shouting Serpentine at me.
Right. And there's this great moment along those lines, which I'd forgotten this moment in the movie, but I just love it. In the Serpentine scene, when he goes back to get the keys, right before that, he says, no, I'm going to go. The idea that you would be out there dead and I'd be stuck here by myself is scarier than me going to get the keys. And that's an amazing moment. It's, to me, like, that shows the reality of that character. You buy that. You buy that he's like, I can't be left here alone. I'd rather go out and die than like, and it's very funny, but it's also, there's like a reality to it.
Yeah, and it's like very vulnerable too.
Right.
Like there's an actual emotional like moment there with that character that you go, okay, like that actually teaches you something about the way his brain operates as well.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to the order we were in before. So, David, why don't you go first? Something I mean, you've said some things you like already, but why don't we like pick one thing and expand upon it? So, what's one thing you really like about this film?
Well, I mean, there are there's so many things. But Richard Libertini, who plays the dictator with the Senor Wences on his hand and those velvet paintings and the flag and the dialogue in the everything Richard Libertini does. I remember seeing it as a kid. I couldn't believe how funny he is, and I got to work with him years later when he did an episode of the Golden Girls while I was there, and that to me, like as a comedy writer, to get to see he's so funny throughout that whole thing, and it's also just how they create the character. Again, the paintings and the senior, all that's in the writing too, but he's so funny, and that's something I really. But that also he has this evil plot, and you believe that even though his character is nuts, that he's actually the bad guy who's going to pull off this evil plot, and at the end is like, I gave them 20 million. They're lying to you. Like he's being petty there too. And all those things. I love him in this. Love him.
And also the being caught in the midst of changing like the uniform.
Yeah, right. And pretending he's a waiter. It's so
Yeah.
crazy.
It was the comedic lean in to Senor Pepe feeling thirsty,
Yes.
and then just doing that entire like seal glass of
Un-
water through his own
unbelievable.
hand. Like
Did that make you
just
laugh?
yeah, that's
Yes.
actually one of the moments that got a tickle out of me. I was like that like if he did it for a second, I would have been like
Yeah, he did.
But
Just
he
went all the
emptied
way.
the entire bottle. So
Right.
yeah, it's like that did get a rise out of me. So that was great stuff.
Senor Pepe kissing Alan Arkin's character as well. Just the look on Alan Arkin's face in that scene
Right.
was worth the price of admission. And in a lot of movies, I think if you had a character like this general showing up, they would go, okay, first off, we're going to cast someone who's going to really jump out in the film. But also they would make it a big part of the movie in a way that I think this one was actually smart. They figured out what they had that really clicked because the paintings were funny. They didn't overstay their welcome. Senor Pepe was given the right amount of moments to be funny but never feel like it was getting old. It's like they knew when to move on.
Yeah.
And like a different movie. Senor Pepe would have been popping up far more.
Right,
And probably would have
right.
been the mid-credits as well.
Right.
Senor Pepe would have had its own poster, I'm sure, in a modern day remake. Yeah.
It would have been like a scene at the end, in the mid-credits or something where he's in prison and Senor Pepe is like singing.
Or just like the hand just comes out of the ground and just like starts
Right,
talking or
right,
something.
right,
Yeah,
right,
I
right.
could see that happening. Thank you, Marvel.
It was that confidence to like move on from a moment and not feel like you need to stretch it. And that applied also to that to the dinner table scene as well.
Yeah.
Where he's telling the stories. Like I was actually surprised at how brief it was because there's lots of comedies made in the 2000s or 2010s that would stretch it considerably longer.
It's funny, again, on the commentary, Andrew Bergman says he loved the dinner table scene so much. It was actually the original scene was 27 pages long, and that he cut it down. But there's a whole thing about how I really would love to read this. Peter Falk talking about how he knew Hitler's grocer in the bush, like the guy who put vegetables, whatever. Anyway,
Cam, what about you? Something you want to say you liked?
I mean, this is a movie that really hinges on these two, but I think what makes it work for me is ultimately there are no shortage of buddy movies in the history of film and television. This was a buddy dynamic that genuinely worked for me, where you had like a growing affection between the two of them that never felt like it was being hammered on. It never felt like it was like we need to have the moment where these two guys share how they feel about each other. You understood that like Alan Arkin's character had more confidence to a degree in trusting Peter Falk to save his life at certain points. He would look to him, but he was also a guy who, given a moment, would race to the phone for help and be like, I don't care about anything that's going on. I'm going to save my own skin. But you got the sense of like a kind of a gentle bond that grew between them. And when you got to the end of the film, of them at the wedding, coming down from the helicopter, I was happy to see the two of them together. And it felt like a very natural, organic pairing of buddies versus like a lot of movies, they make it a really big point to even have the false crisis where they got to split up and go their separate ways because they've had a fight. And we need to have the emotional coming back together. Didn't need it here, and it still clicked perfectly by the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also quite like their License to Kill wedding entrance.
Yeah, I thought of that too. Yeah.
It was very similar tuxedos.
Well, I think License to Kill had an in-laws wedding entrance. It's actually
that's true. Actually, yeah. So yeah, we haven't tackled that film yet. When we do, I'll make sure to reference back the in-laws.
Oh, I should have. You haven't tackled License to Kill. Oh my God.
Oh, we've left so many films on the table. Don't worry. Plenty more to come on Spy Hards. The thing I wanted to throw in, apart from one thing, just a little note, is I think the score by John Morris is actually really fun.
Very good.
Playful.
Yeah.
There's some James Bondian stuff going on in that music, for sure.
Yeah. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I just quite enjoyed the sort of sense of progressive overload of it becoming more and more unhinged as the film went on, but it never felt like it was overwhelming the film. It never became a farce, particularly at any point.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, you get to like the stuff at the end with the dictator and Senor Pepe, and just juxtapose that to the beginning of the film with like the bank robbery with the suede masks and stuff. Like it felt very grounded, and it just in that hour and 40 minutes, it goes completely just off the scale lunacy basically by the end.
Yeah, no, it did that very effectively, and again, like it builds like they're just connecting the thing both of you said in terms of the relationship between Arkin and Falk, and then that building to the craziness. Like there's the scene, there's an incredibly important moment for Alan Arkin is when he runs out of the hotel and jumps on the cab. That's a moment where, again, like it's, as you talked about other spy films where the amateur becomes the great spy, that's his moment, and he's watching him go, and it's like, I gotta go do this. Like he's forced to do it. It's built so slowly. He doesn't do anything. That's the first really crazy thing he does. I mean, he ran away from the cops at his house, but in terms of him, that was in responding. Here he's taking action to help Peter Falk, and it's this slow build that gets that character to that point.
Did he actually do that jump? It really looks like
I thought the same thing. It looked just like him.
It's a Texas switch. So that's what you call this when an actor goes behind a piece of set dressing or a prop and is replaced by the stuntman. So that you don't notice there's a news kiosk outside the hotel. So Alan Arkin runs out of the hotel, runs behind the news kiosk. He stops suddenly, and the stuntman keeps going and jumps on the car. And it's incredibly well done. It's really it's called the stunt people call it a Texas switch.
The Roger Moore films could have learned a couple lessons from that one.
Yeah.
I mean, that same very year, Moonraker, and you got Roger Moore jumping out of an airplane doing a skydive. Yeah, that's that needed some of that, and I wish I could do a Texas switch with Cam. Cool.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Agents, where are you? Why do you hide? Follow that Patreon trail and make Spy Hards your guide.
That's right. From Spy TV reviews covering the antics of George Smiley, Jack Bauer, and the Slow Horses to reviews of non-spy movies from your favorite spy actors, there's no more secrets over on our Patreon. But Cam, tell the listeners about this week's top secret broadcast.
Suffering from the summer doldrums? Well, we have the cure for you. Jump on over to the Patreon and catch up on our July offerings. I'm talking about reviews of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and Gran Torino, plus the 1989 HBO TV movie Red King, White Knight. Get them while they're hot, people.
So deactivate Ghost Protocol and visit patreon.com/spyhards to truly do things angel style.
But before we close Channel D, on with the Spy Jinx.
Well, I take us to the dislike section. I probably buy myself a little bit here, but I'm sure there are things we can critique. David, it sounds like it's a perfect film to you, but is there anything you think could be improved?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, there were just moments that that after Alan Arkin gets the stuff out of the safe, and he's being chased by the two guys, there's this very Naked Gunny kind of shootout around a cab, and I hate it.
Police Squad style. Yeah,
I really hate it. I'm sure the audience loved it. And again, I'm just like, I don't need this. This isn't making me laugh. I don't think this is funny. It's the toughest buy for me. The toughest buy of the movie is that the guy is shooting at him, and I don't think Alan Arkin is in that moment. Like, he's had this really kind of traumatic thing of being chased and being shot at, but there's something about that cab thing that just that really bugged the crap out of me. Watching it again, I was like, oh my God, I hate this.
It kind of ratchets up the danger to a level you don't quite need at that moment either.
Right.
Like, it's enough that he's being chased for him to be scared.
Yeah, and then it undermines it a little bit by making it so silly.
Yeah, and if you actually had the guy with a gun chasing him,
right,
and Peter Falk jumps in and saves him, kind of gets the job done the same way.
I think if you cut that out and just scored it to the Police Squad theme tune, it would play really well. I'm sure someone.
It plays really well. No, it's the same gag in the TV show Police Squad. The two guys Leslie Nielsen
The
behind a
park
garbage
benches,
can.
wasn't it, or something? They were
I remember garbage.
I
I
think,
remember
yeah.
garbage cans.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Cam, what about you? Something you want to bring up?
I don't know that I have a lot. I think the only thing that I would really say is that, like, it took me a little bit to kind of fall into the comedy of it. Like, it felt like it was kind of taking its time, kind of setting things up in a way that, I mean, with my, I guess, more modern comedic sensibilities at this point in time, I'm used to, we've got to keep them laughing right off the top. And this one definitely, took some time to get there. Like, I was watching the opening heist with the magnet going like, okay, sure thing. But I don't know that that's necessarily something that I would say is bad with the film, more like something that takes a bit of an adjustment now when you sit down and are like, I'm watching a comedy, let's go. Oh, it's about, I mean, how long is it really until Peter Falk shows up at the house and the comedy starts? About 15 minutes?
I mean, it's a while. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a while.
Well, you just compare that to the very TV that you've written in the past, David. You talk about Futurama or Family Guy or something like that. That, I mean, a different format completely. 20 minutes, you've got to get them laughing. That's a different thing.
Well, I mean, even multi-camera sitcom where I started, you've got to have jokes right at the top. You're getting people to laugh, right? It's a very different kind of. But you're right. The requirements now for comedy are just very different. I don't think you can get away. You couldn't get away with this for this reason. That when it streams, it's got to hit notes within seconds of it airing. It's not. I mean, and it's why it's a time capsule. It's why it's of its period.
I have actually a question. If you're writing comedy and you've got something that's like the gag a moment, which you've done, obviously on Family Guy, and various other things, or you're doing something that is more like the In-Laws, where it's more like a scene and you're looking for maybe like one big comedic moment or something, which is tougher to write?
Well, I mean, doing anything to make people laugh is always really hard. A certain way Orville, certainly in the beginning, probably had shared some DNA with things like the In-Laws because we were doing a space epic, but our characters were funny. Our characters were normal. Like we would have funny reactions. We went away from that a little bit, although it was still it's still a funny show, and the interactions are still, people get scared, people get worried. You're playing. To me, the comedy is always really super hard because I've always said this: if you're writing a comedy script, that script has to make you laugh every time you read it, and that sounds impossible. It's not, but it's really, really hard. And so getting, and then when you're doing Family Guy, you're working with groups of writers, and you're trying to make a bunch of writers, the best comedy writers in the business, from my perspective. You're trying to make them laugh, and that's a really high bar. So to me, finding things that are really funny but to me, again, like a good story where you can get comedy out of that is also really hard. So, but I think probably the first thing, a really good gag is really, really hard.
I've been trying to make people laugh for the last 5 years, and one of these days I'm going to crack it.
I'm sure you'll get there. What do you hate about the movies? What was the one thing? Aside from the whole movie, what was it?
The comedy.
The
comedy. Actually, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to park it because it's clearly not something we could break down. I think it's a very particular thing, and maybe it didn't work for me on the day. One thing I found with comedies over the years is I'll find something funny one day, and I'm not
absolutely
2 months down the line.
Right.
It's a mood thing. I may have not been in the right mood for it. I'll park it. The thing I actually wanted to bring up, which is actually more of a small thing.
No, it's interesting that you bring that up. Just because first time I saw Spinal Tap, I didn't like it. Now one of my favorite comedies.
Right.
First time I saw it, I'm like, eh. Now I'm like, I don't even know who that was who didn't like Spinal Tap. I love it so much. Anyway, go ahead.
Are you looking forward to the sequel?
Very much.
Mine was the ending. Was the sort of Deus Ex Machina of they're going to be shot, and then just the Ed Begley Jr. and his
Right.
his goon squad turn up and save the day. Just sort of reminded me at the end of Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid a little bit, where like just the whole like army sweep in and just save everything.
Happier
but,
ending.
Yeah, a bit of a happier ending.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just sort of oh, okay, I guess that's how we're getting out of it then. But I guess it's also a comedy.
Well, that's interesting that you looked at it that way, because I thought that was set up well. That Peter Falk was expecting them to show up, and and that I felt like that was the reveal of like this whole time he was working for the CIA, and it revealed that he'd been telling the truth the whole time. It didn't strike me in the same way as it Deus Ex Machina.
I think Cam's not saying anything, so he's agreeing with you there. So.
No, I felt fine with that. And believe me, there's a lot of movies where it does drive me nuts, where you have the cavalry show up for no particular reason.
Right.
Here, it felt because they set up that Ed Begley character well enough that it didn't really jump out to me.
Well, and also, if you go back, I've watched several times, Peter Falk is telling you the truth. He's telling Alan Arkin the truth of the whole thing. I'm doing the CIA, that I'm working for them, but I'm out here on my own, but that there's a way in which like he's telling the truth, so that when Ed Begley shows up, it sort of proves that, oh yeah, he is working for the CIA.
Well, that's one of the things I was going to note down as something I had trouble with at times, because it is kind of like almost like an unreliable narrator in a sense, where like one of your leads is saying, "Oh, I am a good guy, trust me," but everything he's doing is making you think otherwise. But that's just a good sort of twist. I think it's just keeping you on sort of a suspenseful side of things. And I think that did work in the end. So maybe if that's tying into that, then fair enough. I'll leave it there. But
no, I don't mean to shit on the thing. That's fine.
It's what all the guests do to anything I ever say anyway. It's just par.
Are you saying I've been too nice to you? Is what you're saying?
Yeah. You want to get married into this family. This is what you're trying to do here. So you want to take my seat, probably, but you can have it. You can have it. Well, final notes, and then we'll go to the knock list. Any sort of observations, David? You teased us with something off air.
Yeah. Well, the cast. I mean, there were two things. One, I've got to work with both people who've played the young couple. Michael Lembeck, what became a sitcom director, and he's known to American audiences for a show called Captain Cool and the Kongs, which was a kids show in the 70s. But then Michael became a very successful sitcom director, and I worked with him on a couple of shows. And then Penny Peyser was in a sitcom I wrote in the 90s, and then she's in an episode of The Orville.
Nice.
But there's another piece of casting that I know, again, you don't want to do too much Star Trek stuff on your podcast, but there's an actor in this movie who was in Star Trek, and
I know it.
You now know it?
Yeah.
Oh, Cam's figured it out. I've not figured it out.
Well, you set it up, David, before we started recording, and so my brain was turning, and then I suddenly realized how obvious it was.
Who is it?
And Scott, you got nothing?
I genuinely can't even put a face to anything, so I'll probably hit myself because it's TNG. It's probably going to be, and that's my era. So,
are you talking Ed Begley Jr. as Henry Starling in Voyager?
No, I didn't even think of Ed Begley. No, there's a deeper cut. There's a deeper cut, but Ed Begley, of course. But Ed Begley's been in so much that of course, at some point he had to get into Star Trek. No, Alan Arkin's nurse is Rosanna DeSoto, who played Azad Burr in Star Trek 6.
Boom.
Azad Burr becomes the Klingon Chancellor, the daughter of
the daughter of
Chancellor
Gorkon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I didn't even think of Ed Begley. Now I feel stupid. I didn't think of Ed Begley.
We literally reviewed that film like a month ago. I feel stupid now for not actually. Okay, well, I if I'm going to be schooled by anyone, it's someone who wrote for Star Trek. I'll take that.
There we go. Thank you.
That's fine. Cam, anything you want to add in for notes?
I had a couple small things I'll mention. Alan Arkin saying he's 43 when he thinks he's going to die made me feel very old, because I am now older than Alan Arkin in this film. And David Paymer as the cab driver jumped out as well. Very young David Paymer.
It's his first film role.
Jeez. Yeah, he looked incredibly young here.
Yeah.
And a decision they made that I thought was actually really smart was the wife finding the engravings.
Yeah.
And having her do something very natural, which is just take them to the bank.
Right. That was so real. She goes to the bank. It's great. And then the clerk in the bank's like, I don't know what this is. Like that whole scene is hilarious. Maybe not to Scott, but it's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, Scott.
I'm laughing on the inside.
Yeah.
But a different movie would make that far more of an outlandish comedic thing, and she would behave in a way no person would behave.
Yeah.
And I actually really like that creative choice.
Yeah.
I'll throw in two things. I mentioned one of the Bond references, which technically isn't a Bond reference because Bond did it later.
Mhm.
But did you get the other Bond reference in this film? If we're doing a Star Trek thing, I'll do a Bond back at everyone else.
Oh, a Bond reference. No, I don't know that I
It's pretty over. It happens in the first 5 minutes of the film.
First 5 minutes. Oh, I thought you were going to go out on a ledge and say something like the breaking into the safe, like on Her Majesty's, but now I'm confused.
No.
Oh, what was it?
The film that came before it.
You Only Live Twice?
Yeah.
Oh, the magnet on the car.
There it
Oh,
is.
Right.
that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Has that ever happened? Has anyone ever actually used a giant magnet to rob a truck or car?
I mean, they use it in like garbage places. but
Sure.
I did to rob a truck. I'm not sure.
I mean, we've seen it. I've seen it used a few times in film.
I don't know many robbers, Cam, so I can't really ask.
Yeah.
If you're
How is-
listening, robbers, let us know. We'll tell the police, but let us know anyway. And my last thing was, and this is more of perhaps a modern reference, but it was interesting seeing Alan Arkin doing the getaway and taking his car into a spray building
Yeah.
and getting the spray job on his car, which is something that the GTA games that hadn't come out anywhere near this point would do as a thing. You would, to get away from the police, you drive into the pay and spray.
Oh, that's
you pay like
interesting.
$50
I didn't know that. Yeah.
and drive right out. So I wonder.
I'm sure that they got that from this. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if Take-Two
Yeah.
Entertainment got that from this, because that's a very specific thing you do in the game that's from this film.
$30 for a permanent spray is a very good deal.
It was a very good deal, but it's yeah.
And it gets rid of 2 stars, so the police won't follow you anymore
Yeah.
as well. You
That's
know?
right.
It was interesting that I remember again seeing the movie in the theater when that car drives out of that pit, giant laugh from the audience, like when the guy's waving it out and it comes out and it's got flames on the car.
See, I kind of want the car.
It's so interesting to think. It's so interesting to remembering like what the other big laugh was, the fact that all the CIA army at the end is all in suits. Those guys came up over the hill with their gun. They're all in suits. Audience just broke up laughing. It's interesting, like what makes people laugh.
Yeah, that one did not even register for me. The everyone in suits.
I know, but it's like a CIA army, you know.
Right.
Knock-list. 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 The knock-list.
Knock-list. Knock-list. To pick a side.
Well, the big question, the knock list, and Cam, as we have a guest, why don't we just quickly induct David and any new listeners as to what the knock list is?
Yes, the knock list is our tortured acronym for Need to See Official Classics of the Spy Hards podcast, where every week after we talk about a movie, we vote to see if it belongs on the all-time list, the pantheon of great spy films.
Oh no.
The list you would hand someone who's new to the genre, and it's all killer, no filler, but it does represent the spectrum of spy movies. It's not about just putting on, Casino Royale and North by Northwest. It's about kind of having the range of spy films, and there are lots of oddities on there for sure.
And there's not many comedies, really, at this point.
Is there any? Our Man Flint and Spy Kids?
Our Man Flint is one. Spy Kids. I'd have to go and check the tape. Burn After Reading, I think that made it, didn't it?
No, not quite. I voted yes.
Okay.
Well, just saying.
Well,
saying.
all right. Okay. Well, okay. So the question goes to you, David, as you're the guest. You get the first yes or no. Are you putting The In-Laws, this version, 1979, on the knock list?
It's interesting. I definitely have. Obviously, I brought the movie to you guys, so I feel sort of an obligation to say yes. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure it belongs on the spy list. Like that's an interesting thing. I think it's a spy, but I think I gotta say yes. It's a classic movie, and to me that puts it on as many lists as you can get it on. So yes.
I think there'll be a lot of people listening that will be agreeing with you. right now. I think I'm more in the minority than the majority when it comes to this film.
Yeah.
So that's one yes, all still to play for. Cam, what do you think?
I'm actually a yes on this myself. And I didn't expect to be, actually. I kind of went in a little bit arms folded for the first 15 minutes, as I said, and I was like, well, I don't know. But when I really look at all the spy comedies we've looked at on the show, and a lot of the ones that I've seen that we will tackle on the show in the future, I just don't think many of them balance the comedy and the spy stuff very well. And I think this one does both perfectly. And it's also, I think, a great representative for spy comedy of this specific period. We have lots of spy comedies we're going to look at from the 90s and the 2000s. Within the 1970s period, there's not a lot. And I think that this one, it has a different energy. We haven't talked about Austin Powers yet.
No.
But I'm going to go out on a ledge and say there's a chance the first Austin Powers might make that list. But this and that are very different energies. And are also taking very different angles. And when I look at the spy comedies we've looked at in the past, from various decades, 60s, 70s, 80s, etc., this is the one I feel the best about to date. And so, yeah, it's a yes for me.
I mean, I don't need to say much more. I'm outvoted anyway, so it's 2-1. So what I will say is this. It wasn't quite for me, and there's been many films that I've voted yes on and Cam's voted no, and they've still made the knock list. So I'm not begrudgingly allowing it on. It is making its way onto the knock list. It's a no from me. Didn't quite work, but it seems to work for everyone else, and that's fine. I may be the anomaly. I usually am.
Hey Scott, question for you: which one stings more, this or Thunderball?
This actually.
Okay, well that's.
I can see the argument for Thunderball. I can see the argument there. I don't like that film still particularly, but that's a whole other story.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a giant fan of Thunderball. Was playing at a big theater on Sunday at 2:00. I was available to go see it. I've never seen it in a theater. If I did, it was a really long time ago, and I'm like, I don't want to see it.
I put it on if I need a nap. That's when I put it on.
I have seen it in theaters. I do recommend it because it's kind of like something like.
I'm sure that underwater stuff at the end doesn't work on television, but probably is amazing in a theater.
It's like when you watch something like 2001 or Star Trek: The Motion Picture at home.
Right.
It's just not the same effect, and I feel like Thunderball's the same way.
Yeah.
There you go. 2 yeses, 1 no, and as such, The In-Laws 1979 is making the knock list.
All right.
The dossier on the film is completely filed as classified. David, thank you for bringing this film to us. It might not have been for me, but it's for everyone else.
Even though you hated it.
Well, it's made the knock list. I didn't hate it. Hate is a strong word. I didn't like it.
You liked it less than Thunderball.
Yeah. Which is actually not bad as far as things go. It's pretty good stead.
Way more than Star Trek Section 31.
I mean,
I haven't seen it.
That's not.
I haven't seen it yet.
Don't. That's the last bit of advice I could give you. Just don't. Have a root canal. It's more pleasant. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. First time, I'm sure, and I hope of many. I want to hear firstly what you're up to at the moment, what you're working on, what's coming out for you soon.
I'm pursuing lots of stuff. It's this is a down period for me in this moment of like just seeing what's next. I did a series that aired on Peacock last fall called Hysteria that I think came out really well. I have a couple of comics that I'm also very proud of. One called The Masked Mocker, which is about a masked wrestler in 30s Hollywood. That's out from Dark Horse Comics, and also an older comic of mine called Space Job, which are both very, very available, and I'm very proud of them. And then the Hollywood game is just to keep trying, and I'm involved in a bunch of things. We'll see if any of them turn out to be real.
Well, here's hoping on that, and I have heard rumors of an Orville season 4, so I'll keep my fingers crossed.
I've heard those rumors as well. I have a new, actually, I guess I have a new, now that I think about it, when Futurama's new season drops, I've written a few freelances. I've got a new one that's coming out that I think is pretty fun, and I just wrote another episode of Family Guy, which will be on sometime next year. So
There you go. There you go. That's more David Goodman in the future. And where can people find you online if they want to come track you down?
I think I'm just really on Instagram, David A. Goodman 1 on Instagram. That's mostly, and I'm still on X and Blue Sky, but I don't have huge followings there. So Instagram is the place.
You'll be linked in all our posts this week. So, David, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll be seeing you soon, I'm sure.
Thank you for letting me be part of this, and it's been such a fun conversation. Thank you.
Well, there you go, folks. That was The In-Laws, or at least the original version, with our good friend, Mr. David A. Goodman. I want to thank David for taking the time to speak with us on the film, a film that he chose, so you can send all your hate mail or love mail to him.
That's right. That's right. Keep it coming, folks. Keep it coming.
To him, not
That's
us.
right.
Yeah. Cam, what a film, though.
It was. I had a great time talking about this one because it's definitely got a big cult fandom around it, but for some reason, just never ticked it off on my watch list. And so I can finally say that is done. And now I can move on to the much-loved remake of this film from the early 2000s.
you really forked up.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Well, it might fork upwards next time. We'll find out. But yeah, good time talking with David. About time we got on the show. Before we throw to next week's episode, I think it's also important to maybe just signpost a couple of things that are happening this week. I think in terms of release schedule, this episode marks our 5th anniversary.
Right, yes. And it's a good thing we celebrated 5 years of the movie that you were so enthusiastic about.
I mean, to be fair, we celebrated, I think it was our 100th film was Spy Hard, a film that we are named after, and I really didn't like.
To be fair, though, it made sense. That's at least partially where our name came from. Not fully, but partially.
Not fully.
And so it was very fitting.
For lawyer reasons.
For lawyer reasons, yeah. Don't sue us, please. We have no money.
We'll be in law because we'll be held in the penitentiary.
Ah, yes, true. But you know what? We have other things in store, right? Other fun things that maybe are more befitting 5 years on the air.
Oh, there's some things coming up in August and September that you're all going to want to stay tuned for. Something quite big on the horizon that I won't say any more about. But I'll also just sort of point out, it's 5 years of Spy Hards. What a way to celebrate. And also, usually you and I would be in Vegas round about now doing our STLV thing, but we chose not to go there for a multitude of reasons. But I think at time of release, you're actually here with me in England.
That's right. Everyone's on the wrong side of the road. What's going on? It's crazy.
Are you having a good time, Cam? Can you insert if you're having a good time in now? Because we're recording this ahead of time. Or maybe just predict. Are you having a good time?
The jury is still out.
Oh, okay. He's having a time.
I have a powdered wig on. I don't know what's going on.
You should just do one of those lines where you just leave a blank and then people can just say what they think.
Right.
So Cam, are you having a good time? What a great time he had. Or what a bad time he had. You can pick. It's like a choose your own adventure story. It's great.
That's right.
But yeah, last few years we've done an anniversary episode. We're not going to do that so much. The July Who Loved Me was kind of our love letter to 5 years. That was kind of our anniversary sign off. But we are doing something later in the month to celebrate 5 years with an episode tying back to the very beginning, which we'll announce more details about later in the month. But I think a quintessential Spy Hards thing to do on their 5th birthday is to pick a film like The In-Laws.
I think that's about appropriate. I can't wait to see what we do at 10 years.
I don't know, probably some World War II propaganda spy film.
Probably, yeah. I can, or maybe the In-Laws remake.
Oh, maybe that. Yeah, we save
yeah,
that. We save
that one.
I think people will want us to save it too.
They're screaming, "Save it! Save it!"
Please save it. Please talk about one of the films we want, like The Spy Who Came In From the Cold or something. No, we refuse.
That's right.
But that's The In-Laws. That's us for this week. Cam, what are we talking about next week?
The 5-year celebration continues because
yes.
We're looking at the 1955 Revolutionary War spy film, The Scarlet Coat, starring Cornell Wilde.
You're going to go wild for this one, folks. Trust me. Oh, boy. I mean, we've recorded that one already. And actually, all jokes aside, it's actually quite an interesting film.
It was, yeah. I think it's a lot of fun to actually look at, yeah.
Yeah. So keeping up the trend and keeping up how Spy Hards runs, join us next week as we go wild with 1955's The Scarlet Coat. I mean, who wouldn't tune in for that?
I know, right? And
Huh?
I don't
Who
remember.
wouldn't tune in for that? Oi! Stop turning your podcast player off. I can see you doing it.
And this one is available on Internet Archive, so I will definitely post a link to this one in the show notes next week. But if anyone wants to look, just head on over to archive.org and you can watch it right there. Just look up Scarlet Coat 1955.
Yeah, don't get distracted by any of the other porn videos that Cam's uploaded by the same name. Just find the film.
That's right.
They're all viruses. Don't do it.
But I'm trying to get them to go viral.
Ah, that's not quite what that means. Cam.
Oh, okay.
You're out of touch once again. That's why you like 1955's The Scarlet Coat.
Yeah. It's
A film of your like middle age, right? That's what it takes you back to.
Scarlet reminds me of thrush and, viral.
And venereal diseases. What a way to celebrate Spy Hard's birthday.
Back to the Revolutionary War, people.
Woohoo! Let's do it. Join us next week for The Scarlet Coat. If you like what you hear on the show and you've made it after 5 years and you haven't joined us on Patreon, we'd love to have you over there. The show continues to be expensive to run and we'd just love to have your support. Plus, you get a bunch of bonus episodes of us talking absolute nonsense. I mean, who wouldn't want that?
Exactly. There's endless amounts of nonsense going on over on the Patreon every single month.
It's our birthday. Treat us to a birthday present. Join the Patreon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's all we ask is money.
Yeah, and recently we did episodes like Gran Torino, for example, or was it Red King, White Knight, the 1989 HBO TV movie? There's lots of stuff there.
Yeah, what a way to sell it, Cam. Thanks. And don't forget to join us over on social media at SpyHards. That's SPYHARDS, wherever you get your social media. But until next time, Cam is off to practice his kissing technique with Senor Pepe.